So circulatory system is our area of concern which we are going to look at. Circulatory system, this one is mainly in animals, but our focus is going to be a lot in mammals. Remember, the circulatory system is among the systems which are biologically vital. It is biologically vital because we are seeing that a lot of materials must be moved around the body. You can imagine the oxygen is entering the body and it ends at the lungs, but even your toes need oxygen. The ears need oxygen, the brain need oxygen. Look what the foods we are eating. The foods are going to be broken down in the digestive system, and you will see that they are going to end the breaking is going to end in the small intestines. But we are seeing the products of digestion are needed by all the cells in the body to carry out their functions. Now, the system we are talking about, the circulatory system, is that a system that is going to move all of those materials around the body. Remember, not only those materials which are essential, we have even the non-essential materials like the waste products that are very, very deadly to the body, dangerous to the body. And the only option which is there to remain alive is to remove them from your body. So the system which is going to move them from where they are being produced to where they can be removed from the body is still what we are calling circulatory system. So that is a system which we are going to look at if you can imagine how important it is. Now, when you look at some of the importances of the circulatory system, you will discover that it transports excretory products from the point of production to the point of elimination. You will still discover that this same system is transporting the antibodies. These are soldiers, our soldiers, produced by the white blood cells, from the point of production to the point where they are needed to defend the body. We are seeing it also transporting water. Remember, water is acting as a solvent. The food you eat, the medicine you take, the alcohol people are taking, and many other things which we take, all of them are going to be dissolved by what we are calling water. So now the water is moved by what we call the circulatory system. Then when you look at other functions, it is the same system which is carrying what we are calling hormones. Hormones, these are chemical substances which are causing effect or carrying chemical messages from one point of the body to the other. Take an example, hormones like testosterone or estrogen, prolactin, oxytocin, and many other hormones as we shall see under the endocrine system. Now we will discover that it is the same system which is transporting digested food substances. Remember, these food substances are important for repair and maintenance of the tissues. So how can they reach there? That is by circulatory system. The oxygen which we are living at, the oxygen is our petrol. The oxygen is our diesel. The oxygen is our fuel in the body. So the oxygen is entering and is ending the lungs. So it is being carried to all the places of our body by the circulatory system. At the same time, the carbon dioxide which is produced by respiration, our cells are carrying out respiration. They break down food oxidatively to release energy. And as they are releasing the energy, carbon dioxide is given off. Carbon dioxide is very dangerous to the body cells. So therefore, the body eliminates it, but who is carrying it? That is circulatory system. Try to imagine about the plasma proteins. We have a lot of proteins which are needed in the body. For example, fibrinogen. This one is preventing blood from oozing out. In simple terms, it is for blood. We are standing because we are standing, or we are living because of this system. Then this system at the same time is moving what we call the mineral salts. Mineral salts, we are referring to those ones needed in big amounts, like you imagine of sodium is important in muscular contraction. You talk about calcium for bone formation. Look at iron for formation of blood. Look at iodine for body's metabolism, and many other minerals. All these minerals are moved by the circulatory what? System. So that is the system which we are talking about. Now, after making that introduction of circulatory system, members, we have what we call types of circulatory system. There are mainly 3 types of circulatory system, and these systems are operating differently from one another. So one of the systems, we have what we call open circulatory system or open saturation. Now this is simply a system where blood is not confined in blood vessels. You remember that you know what we are calling insects. The insects, their blood, the little blood which they possess or which they have, does not flow in blood vessels. Instead, it is flowing in a space which we are calling the haemocoel. Now, that kind of flowing like running water, or flowing like a river, or flowing like a lake, this is where you're going to look at what we call open circulatory what? System. This one is commonly in what? In insects. The second type, which is important, is what we are calling the single closed circulatory system. Members, here we are seeing that blood is going to move through blood vessels, but is going to pass once through the heart. This one is common to all those animals which are possessing two-chambered what? Heart. You see, the basic example we can give here, the fish which we enjoy to eat. When you look at the anatomical structure of the heart of the fish, you are going to discover that it is having only one ventricle and one auricle. So the kind of flow through the heart of the fish, that one is going to be the best representative of what we are calling single closed circulatory system. Now we are having a third system. The third system, which we are calling double closed circulatory system. We human beings, we are falling here, and other sisters and brothers, other mammals. Now, double circulatory system, we are going to see that blood is going to be confined or flowing in blood vessels, but on top of that, we are seeing it passing twice through the heart for its complete what? Saturation. And now, this one, because it is passing via the heart 2 times, in this expression we are calling it double. In single, it is passing once for complete saturation. For complete saturation, this explains why we called it single. Double closed circulatory system, biologists, this is a characteristic, or it is common to all mammals. Mammals like we, human beings, and the heart which can do this one we are going to call it a 4-chambered what? A 4-chambered heart. Members, as we are talking about circulatory system, remember there are some components of the circulatory system. The first component of the circulatory system, we are calling it the heart. The heart. All of us, we have the heart. When you look at your left breast now below it, you'll discover there is something pushing. That is the heart I'm talking about. That organ is very, very vital. And once it stops doing the work, a problem has already what? Come. So it will beat from birth until when you do what? You die. Its beating cannot be limited until when you do what? You die. The rhythm continues like that. So that pumping device, it is very, very vital in a circulatory what? System. This one is acting as a generator. If I'm going to take your card, that pump which is pushing water, for example, from national water point to place at your home where you are getting the water from as you are tapping the tap. Now the pump which is the other side where the water is being pumped from, it is doing the same work as our heart is doing the work. The miles blood is moving in the body, maybe even more than the miles which the water is moving for national water, if you are going to locate properly. Now, from there, the second component, we shall look at what we call the blood vessels. Members, As you are looking at those pipes for national water and sewerage corporation carrying the water, our body contains pipes which are only different from those ones that our pipes are natural, not plastic ones like those ones. Now the pipes or the tubes which are carrying the blood around our body, those pipes are the ones we are calling the blood vessels. Remember from your primary science, blood vessels can be categorized into three. We have what we call the arteries, we have what we call the veins, and we have what we call the capillaries. The details we shall see them when we are looking at the blood vessels. Now, you will discover the component of circulatory system is blood. Now, blood is a tissue. Among the tissues which the teachers told you in senior 1, they talked about blood. Blood is a tissue. This tissue is made up of water, but we are seeing their cells. So blood, we have also to talk about blood properly. The red blood cells which are there are very, very important, as we shall see in movement of the gases, respiratory gases. The white blood cells which are there in our blood, very, very important for body's defense, body's immunology, or immunity. Then when you look at the platelets or the thrombocytes, remember the red blood cells can be now called the erythrocytes. Then in the white blood cells, we can call them the red. You are going to discover that the heart is divided into two, the left heart or the left side of the heart and the right hand side of the heart. However, the reason why I'm calling them two hearts, the left heart is working independent of the right heart. The left-hand side of the heart is working independent of the right-hand side of the heart. Meaning even if the left one fails to do its work, the right one can continue doing its work on. Now you have known that the heart is having two sides. Those two sides, it is being divided by what we call the septum or the atrioventricular septum. Then the heart is four-chambered. We have the left auricle or atrium, then the right auricle atrium. Then we are having what we call the left ventricle, then we are having what we call the right ventricle. Now the auricle or the atrium on the left is separated from the left ventricle by what we call the valves. Those valves, we are calling them the bicuspid valves. Then when you look at the right auricle or the right atrium is also separating itself from the right ventricle by valves which we are calling the tricuspid valves. Now members, when you bring together the bicuspid valves on the left and tricuspid valves on the right, you are going to get what we call the atrioventricular valves. Remember, those are not the only valves. You are going to see other valves at the bases of the arteries. Then from there, we are seeing that the four chambers still, the left-hand side of the heart, especially the left ventricle, is thicker than the right ventricle. The reason is going to be that as we are going to look at the saturation, we are going to look at now the left ventricle pushing blood for a longer distance. It is this one which is going to push it into the aorta, and the aorta supplies to the rest of the body. Remember, the aorta is acting as the lake. Then other blood vessels are going to tap from the aorta. Those on supplying the hands, the subclavian, those supplying the intestines, the mesenteric, those supplying the head, the carotid, those supplying the thighs and the legs, those on the what we are calling the femoral and the sciatic, all of those ones are tapping. Those ones supplying the kidney, the renal, supplying the liver, the hepatic, and so on. All those ones are tapping from the aorta. So you can imagine the longer distance which the ventricle is pushing blood. Then when you leave the left ventricle being bigger, you will discover that the right ventricle or the right heart is thinner. The reason being thinner, this one is pushing blood for a shorter distance, is pushing blood to the lungs for oxygenation. Actually, is pushing blood into the pulmonary artery, and the pulmonary artery is taking blood to the lungs to pick oxygen. Now, since the blood is being pushed for a shorter distance from the heart to the lungs, it explains why less pressure is needed. And this explains why the thicker the walls, the bigger the pressure. So the left is generating bigger pressure to propel the blood for a longer distance. Then the right is having thinner walls to generate less pressure that can push blood for a shorter distance. Now, apart from that, we are seeing the heart having blood vessels. So we have blood vessels on the left. The blood vessel on the left, you try to look at our left. There we are seeing blood vessel entering. That is the pulmonary vein entering the auricle, the atrium. That one is carrying blood from the lungs. Then you will discover that we are having another blood vessel on the right, entering the right auricle. That one we are calling it the vena cava. That one is carrying deoxygenated blood from the rest of the body parts. It is collecting the blood back. As the aorta is taking, vena cava is collecting the blood. All the blood they use it as you can use oil from the motorbike or from a car, and then you got to use it. Now the blood which is used after the cells picking the oxygen, picking the nutrients, but adding a lot of waste products and carbon dioxide, now the vena cava carries all of that nonsense, all of that rubbish now back to the heart, and the heart pushes it then to make it now new blood. That kind of recycling. The recycling now is going to be facilitated by vena cava, bring it back to the heart. Then now, members, and other blood vessels which we are having what we call the pulmonary artery. This one is found now at the right hand side of the heart. This one is propelling blood taking blood the lungs for oxygenation. Then we have what we call the aorta. Aorta, I told you, is taking blood the rest of the body parts. To understand how our heart is working, we need to understand what we are calling contraction and relaxation of the heart. Just remember that when the heart is contracting, we say it is experiencing what we call systole. Then when it is relaxing, it is experiencing what we are calling diastole. Now, members, the beating of the heart is what we want to show in how the heart is working, what we are calling a heartbeat. Remember, according to WHO, World Health Organization, the heart beats 72 times per minute. That is medical average recording. Now, you can be having yours beating more than or less than, but on average, that is what we are taking. Now, how the beatings are done is now what is going to show us how the heart is working. Now, the beating or the heartbeat is going to be brought about by what we are calling contraction and relaxation. Remember, the contraction we are saying is systole. Relaxation is a diastole. Now, the whole process of contraction and relaxation is brought about by what we call a cardiac muscle. The cardiac muscle is special in the way that it makes the heart to beat myogenically. Myogenically means its rhythm of beating cannot be stopped or started. But you can only increase it. This explains why we are saying it is beating from birth to death. Are we going to talk about now in systole? In systole, we are going to see the cardiac muscle contracts. When the cardiac muscle contracts, we are seeing the volume of the heart chambers are going to do what? To reduce. When the volume of the heart chambers reduce, from principles of physics, volume is inversely proportional to pressure. So you are going to say as you are decreasing the volume, you are going to increase the pressure of the chambers. And when you increase the pressure of the chambers, the blood will be pushed. Now, when we go back, for example, to our atrium, the blood becomes filled in the atrium. When the blood becomes filled in the atrium, that is oxygenated via the pulmonary vein, and then deoxygenated via the vena cava. We are seeing now when the muscle of the auricles contracts, now we are going to see that the volume of the auricles decreases. When the volume of the auricles decreases, members, the pressure of the auricles increases. So we are going to begin by looking at the pressure of the left auricle atrium increasing. When it increases, it pushes and it opens the bicuspid valve. Here we are seeing blood is going to flow from the left auricle atrium into the left ventricle. Similarly, at the same microseconds, we are seeing that the increase in the pressure of the right auricle atrium pushes the blood via the tricuspid valve into what called the right ventricle. Now that situation when the auricles are contracting and their pressure is increasing is what we are going to call the systole. Then when the blood reaches the ventricles members, understand this, we are going to see that the pressure of the auricles must lower. So we are going to see that they are going to relax. Auricles, as they are relaxing, we are seeing the muscles, the cardiac muscles in them goes back to its natural position, and the volume of the auricles increase. And when the volume of the auricles increase, the pressure of the auricles decreases. As the pressure of the auricles is decreasing, we are going to see that the bicuspid valves on the left-hand side closes, and the tricuspid valves on the right-hand side also closes. Now we are going to see that now the ventricles are also going to contract. The muscles of the ventricle contract. When the muscles of the ventricle contracts, we are seeing the volume. We are seeing the volume of the ventricles decreasing. When the volume of the ventricle decreases, I'm going to begin with the left ventricle. So when the volume of the left ventricle decreases, pressure of the left ventricle increases. When that pressure increases, the pressure is going to push blood via the aortic valves at the base of the aorta. So the high pressure is going to open up the aortic valves, and this is going to push blood to the aorta, and the aorta takes blood the rest of the body parts. Similarly, in the same microseconds or the same time, we are seeing that the high pressure at the right hand side of the heart, that is the right ventricle, pushes blood through the pulmonary artery via the pulmonary valves. Remember, the valves at the base of the aorta and the valves at the base of the pulmonary artery, we call them the semilunar valves. Blood on being pushed through the aorta, it is oxygenated. Then blood being pushed through the pulmonary artery, it is deoxygenated. And this deoxygenated blood is going to move through the pulmonary artery, the lungs, to pick what? Oxygen, or to become oxygenated. Now we are seeing that as blood is flowing in the aorta, the rest of the blood vessels are going to pick blood. So the aorta is going to be the main supplier. Then we are seeing the vessels of the head will take the oxygenated blood from the aorta, the carotid. Then the vessels, the arteries of the hands, remember arteries, they are taking blood away from the what? From the heart. Don't forget that. Then the veins are bringing blood back to the what? To the heart. So we are seeing the carotid supplying the head from the aorta. We are seeing the hepatic artery supplying the liver from the aorta. We are seeing the renal artery supplying blood to the kidneys from the aorta. We are seeing the femoral supplying blood to the legs, but from the aorta. We are seeing mesenteric arteries supplying blood to the digestive system, but from the what? From the aorta. So you will find that now the thing is going to be like that. Similarly, now that blood which has moved, when the cells pick what they want, that blood must come back as deoxygenated blood, but is being poured onto the vena cava. Vena cava brings it back to the heart, but tributaries are pouring on it. Some tributaries, like from the kidney, you will see renal vein pouring to the vena cava to carry back the heart. Subclavian vein in the hands. You will find mesenteric veins pouring, duodenal vein, intestinal vein. There are many veins pouring. The jugular vein is in the neck pouring on the vena cava to bring back blood to the what? To the heart. The functioning is mainly observed by the heart contracting and relaxing. Relaxation of the heart, that is diastole. Contraction of the heart, that one we are calling it what? Systole. Who brings contraction? That is the contraction of the muscle of the heart, the cardiac muscle. What happens with the heart chambers when they contract? Their volume decreases. When their volume decreases, what happens? The pressure in them increases. When the pressure in them increases, blood is pushed to another direction. So how does blood flow in the heart? How can we control the flow of blood in the heart? The oxygenated blood enters via pulmonary vein to the left auricle. At the same time, the oxygenated blood enters via the vena cava of the right auricle. Then what happens? The auricles contract. When they contract, their pressure increases. Then now we are seeing that blood is pushed via the atrioventricular valves by cuspid on the left, by cuspid on the right, and the blood goes downwards to the ventricles. When now reaches the ventricles, that blood must be taken to other positions of the body. So you are seeing even the ventricles contract. When the ventricles contract, as the valves are closing, the ventricles contract and the volume decreases of the ventricles and pressure increases. When pressure increases, we see the left ventricle pushes blood into the aorta, and aorta supplies the rest of the body part. And then we are seeing the right ventricle pushes blood into the pulmonary artery. Pulmonary artery takes blood to the lungs for